Okay, so welcome everybody. Hopefully can see um, my screen. All right, so again, if you're just joining, I saw a couple people I let in the waiting room just now. My name is Dr. Edward Bednarz. I'm an associate professor in the mechanical engineering department here at Wilkes. So there's lots of stuff I'm going to cover over the course of the next hour, or slightly under an hour. Hopefully to allow some time for questions. But really, I'm going to start off by saying, why mechanical engineering? Why is this a field that I'm passionate about? And why have I dedicated my career to mechanical engineering? Secondary to that, I suppose, is why Wilkes? Why would you want to go to Wilkes in order to obtain this career and get your degree in mechanical engineering? And there's a good number of things we do right, and I stand behind the product. Otherwise I wouldn't be here tonight talking to you about Wilkes and mechanical engineering and why I'm so passionate about it. We have a very robust curriculum where we expose students to great variety of topics in mechanical engineering. You're going to hear me talk about how my field is solid mechanics and engineering design. I myself have 5 patents, and I worked for 12 years as a mechanical engineer before teaching for the last 8 years. And so engineering design is one branch. Then there's robotics and 3D printing and materials, fluid mechanics, heat transfer. So there's a lot of different aspects of mechanical engineering, and we like to tie hands-on labs to each one of these topics. So you're going to learn the theory in the fluid mechanics class lecture, and then you're going to get hands-on in the lab, and you're going to get to take data on a wind tunnel the size of a room. We also have collaboration with senior projects where students are the inventors and they come up with their own products, and they have 2 semesters where they design and build and test, and several of them have led to patents. I do, like I said, I have 5 patents, 3 while working at my previous job for the government, and 2 working with students on senior projects. So I'm going to talk a little about them. We encourage internships and co-ops throughout their education experience because we want them to get that hands-on experience with local industry. There's many, many local industry in the Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Hazleton area. And we'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk about integrity in the community. So we are ABET accredited. I'm sure if you're researching mechanical engineering programs across the state, even further areas, you're going to pretty much figure out you want to go to school that's ABET accredited. We have been ABET accredited the entire time we've had this program for, I'd say, over 30 years. I myself graduated from Wilkes in 2001, so that was 20 years ago. And I know, mechanical engineering program has existed at least a decade and a half prior to that. And then, like I said, I'll be around to answer any questions. You can just type them in the chat if you like, or show your faces, your smiling faces, and I'll be free to answer. Okay, so again, I'm going to start off with the why the mechanical engineering. So it's just a funny graphic I found, kind of explaining, how does engineers fall in the scope of academia? Well, physicists, they want to answer the grand question: are things made of stuff? And philosophy professors, they say stuff. And what do engineering? Awesome stuff. Could it be more awesome? Giant laser, ultra spaceship. I think it's a fun field, truly. Why else become a mechanical engineer? Well, I think it's fun, but hey, it pays well. And I don't think a lot of people on the street really understand that engineers get paid really well. If you're, every mother wants their child to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? So that they'll grow up and make a lot of money. Well, engineers aren't too shabby. This is from several years ago, 7 years ago to be exact. The median salary nationwide for mechanical engineers, it was $83,000. So that means there's a lot of engineers making more than that too. Half are making more, half are making not far under, actually. I'd say from my experience just working with students in this area, they're getting jobs right out of school in the $60,000 range as a starting engineer, and then within 3, 4, or 5 years working up to this median salary and with the potential to earn 6 figures or more. So really nice, well-paying job. It's one thing to have a well-paying job, but can you break into that field, right? Is it something that is in demand no matter where you are? Is it in demand in Northeast Pennsylvania? I'm a local NEPA, born and raised. Can you get a job, or do we have to move to Philly, or would you have to move to Chicago or LA? Yes, you can get a mechanical engineering job in this area. You can get a job in any area, really. If you're from New Jersey, or if you're from New York, Maryland, wherever, you can surely go back, and if you want to get a job in that area, mechanical engineering is the #1 engineering job nationwide. So there was 277,000 jobs in 2014. It's predicted to grow close to 300,000, even in the next few years and beyond. So it's a fun job. It pays well. There's lots of job opportunities out there. And here's just kind of showing the chart. The top 2 engineering positions actually are civil and mechanical. So, perhaps several of you are kind of interested in mechanical, maybe civil, you're not sure. Civil is actually a joint program between my department, mechanical engineering, and the environmental engineering department. So we're going to have professors kind of teaching both. And it's actually brand new to this year. I humbly say that I was one of the driving forces to say, hey, we need civil, because when I run open houses such as this, and I talk to prospective students and parents, they're always asking about the big 3, mechanical, electrical, civil. Those are the top 3 engineering positions nationwide. So yes, we do have all 3 here. We have mechanical, electrical, civil, we have environmental, and engineering management. So those are all the choices for engineering we have here at Wilkes. Okay, so why Wilkes? I'm going to spend the next several slides talking about this. We have small class sizes. I know that's huge. That's huge not only for the parents, but also the students themselves. They don't want to be in a classroom of 150 other students and just be a number and just a face in the crowd. I assure you, our typical class sizes are 15 to 30. Right now I'm teaching 2 machine design sections, and they both have 15 exactly in their section. Perhaps it could get 20, 25, but once they get over 30, we break off and start a new section. That's kind of our mission here, to just maintain that small class sizes, because in a room of 20 students, I can look across, I learn all their names throughout the course of the semester. I could say, oh, Bill, Sally, Joe, I know who they are, and I could get to know them, they could get to know me. You're not just a face, you're not just lost. We do have a good number of hands-on learning in the labs. Like I mentioned, we pride ourselves in that. That's one of our hallmarks. We're also connected to the local industry. I run the co-op program, so I'm going to talk about that later on. So what is engineering? This is kind of my personal philosophy, having been an engineer myself for 20 years. I believe it's the practical application of science for the benefit of mankind. So again, I listen to audiobooks by Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an astrophysicist. If you ever watch Star Talk, great astrophysicist, and they talk about the universe and multiverses and what makes up an atom and quarks. But engineers are always taking these great physics discoveries and saying, okay, how can we make a better computer? How can we make a better cell phone? How can we make better energy? We're always trying to apply it to make people's lives better. We're trying to increase more efficient transportation or energy or entertainment for that matter. Engineers design, look around, everything. The reason we're able to talk probably for at least hundreds of miles away, maybe even thousands of miles away during this virtual open house is because of engineering, right? The computers you're on right now, the desks you're sitting at, all engineering. I believe that a lot of engineering students, they chose engineering possibly by 1 or 2 reasons. They were either really hands-on in high school and they worked on cars and they say, yeah, I like tinkering, I like building. I think engineering would be fun. Or they were very theoretical and loved math and loved physics, and or maybe you're fortunate and you kind of do a little both. My goal as a professor, personally, is to bridge the gap between the two, and you're going to leave Wilkes knowing the theory and knowing how to do the math, but also know how to be hands-on and turn wrenches. Okay, I spent a good portion of my career, as I mentioned, I worked 12 years for the Army as an engineer, and I did both. I would do the designs, I would get hands-on with the builds and the testing, and I like to show that to my students too, and encourage them to be inventors as well. You can be an inventor even as a student. So how do we rank? Why Wilkes again? Well, this is a great summary by this national journal, The Economist. They have 1,200 colleges ranked on expected earnings versus median earnings after graduation. And Wilkes ranks 25 out of 1,200 colleges nationwide. Not too shabby. And look who we beat out at number 26. And if you can't read it on your screen, that's MIT. You might have heard that. So, Wilkes takes students with potentially coming in with lower earning potential, and I think personally, due to the mechanical engineering program, kind of flips that around and then allows you to get those great jobs right out of school, $60,000, $70,000 jobs right out of school. All right, so I'm going to talk now a little about my curriculum. So, we really do work closely with ABET. Every 5 years, they send visitors to different schools, every school, doesn't matter where you go, and they kind of do an audit. And they say, okay, well, show us your curriculum, show us the transcripts of students, show us sample senior projects, sample test exams. And, we really take any feedback to heart, and, we always want to maintain our ABET accreditation, of course. And here's some metrics that we use as a suggestion for ABET. We really focus on problem solving, design, which is creating a solution given constraints. You don't have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, all the resources in the world. So even my design project that I'm giving to a freshman this year, where I say, design a bridge that can hold a load, and then they have to build it out of popsicle sticks. Well, they have a fixed amount of time to do it. The one semester, they can't use all the sticks in the world. They have a fixed number of popsicle sticks they have to use, and their resources are their teammates. They have to work well with each other in teamwork. We also pride ourselves in teaching our students ethics and professionalism, to do the right thing. Don't cheat, don't cut corners, don't plagiarize. Teamwork. Every one of my projects is a team project, because when you're working out in the real world, you're going to be working with other engineers. You're not just ever going to be in your own little bubble. Experimentation. We teach the students how to work the experimental equipment, collect data, analyze and interpret that data, and then write reports. Engineers need to learn how to write and orally present too. Trust me, if you saw me 24 years ago when I first enrolled as a freshman at Wilkes, I was shy. I couldn't speak in front of a whole crowd. But now, I could potentially speak to however many people are on this call, or 100 people in an auditorium. We teach our students how to stand and orally present what they've done. And new knowledge, how to engage in lifelong learning. That's what excites me most about engineering, is not the theories that were developed 150 years ago, which some we still do use today, but I'm constantly reading my American Society of Mechanical Engineering journal, ASME. I encourage students to become members of that and to read about the emerging technologies, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, nanotechnology. This is what excites me. Like, I'm in awe of where we came from, my grandparents' generation to my parents' generation to my generation to my kids' generation. I unfortunately have 4 kids. I would love to see what's the world going to look like as they're growing up. So we have program educational objectives. Basically, in 3 to 5 years after graduation, our alumni are able to perform a variety of skills. And just to kind of, you could read through these as I'm talking, but in a nutshell, we pride ourselves that our engineers are prepared for the real world right out of school. And we've had great feedback by all the companies that our students have gotten jobs from, and they say, yeah, your students really are ready to go. They're ready to hit the ground running. Okay, so here's our curriculum. I'm going to try to zoom in a little. And Basically, the first 3 semesters are the same for all engineering at Wilkes, and that's done purposefully. So that right now, if you're kind of listening to me talk and you say, oh yeah, mechanical engineering kind of seems cool, but I want to learn more about electrical too, or I want to learn more about civil or environmental or engineering management. You don't have to make up your mind day one. You're taking these fundamental classes like the CAD, the calculus, the physics, and then, as you get into your sophomore year, you're going to take some circuits, statics, um, regardless if you're mechanical, electrical. Then by the 4th semester, so that's kind of where you have to start um, deciding for sure, hey, do you really want to pursue mechanical, or do you want to switch to civil or electrical? Because this is where it kind of breaks off into mechatronics. And I love this semester. This is spring semester, sophomore year, because this lays the groundwork for all those branches of mechanical engineering that I talked about in the beginning. Mechatronics then will flow into robotics later on your senior year. Strength of materials flows into machine design. That's my field. Dynamics, that'll help with vibration. Thermodynamics, that'll lead to fluid mechanics, heat transfer. And machining, that's the hands-on experience. At least one component of the hands-on experience where students actually work in machine shop. And then you can see as we start getting into junior year, that's when we start getting into these specialty courses. And a lot of students, unfortunately, they drop out of engineering too early. They're saying, I really don't like calculus, and I have to take calculus again, calculus 2, and calculus again, multivariable calculus. I say, just stick with it, because then when you start getting into these classes, then you're doing the vibration lectures and learning about how things oscillate and how the Tacoma Narrow Bridge cracked apart. And then you're getting into fluid mechanics and machine design. And you could actually do design projects on your own, design a Stirling engine for heat transfer. So, then students that stick with it, they usually stick with it the rest of the way. If they make it to junior year, then they're like, I love this field. I want to ride this out. And then we have room in here for technical electives. So we give our students breadth, which is exposure to each one of these disciplines, but then they're allowed to choose their own depth. So myself personally, since engineering design is my field, I teach an advanced CAD course, advanced machine design course, inverse problems in mechanics course. So these are all technical electives that students say, yeah, I did like my basic CAD course. I want to go deeper and learn more advanced CAD, modal analysis, finite element analysis, and stuff like that. And actually, there is an FEA finite element methods required course, but there's other things I talk about in my advanced CAD course, advanced modeling, advanced assembly, or advanced machine design. In the basic machine design course, we touch on gears and different components, but in my advanced machine design, I spent a whole week on cams, a whole week on gears, belts and pulleys, and so forth. And then senior projects, that's kind of our capstone. That's the culminating experience, and I love being a part of senior projects. Okay, and here's just kind of a visual flow chart showing basically that curriculum I was talking about. The flow chart kind of just shows that the courses come in a hierarchy. And you can see that from this first one. You need to pass Calculus 1, Math 111, before you get into Calculus 2, Math 112, and so forth. Some of these courses can be taken concurrently with each other. So, some of our students don't take Calculus 1 their first semester. They actually take pre-calculus. And then they can take Calculus 1 their second semester, but they won't fall behind in the curriculum. They can take Calculus 1 alongside physics and computer programming. And the same with in the following semester, they could take Calculus 2 the fall, or if they want to get completely caught up, they have the option of taking Calculus 2 somewhere over the summer. It could be at Wilkes, it could be at a local community college. We transfer a lot of courses in from a lot of different colleges. We're very accommodating with that regards, and very welcoming actually to transfer students. And you can just see the rest of the hierarchy. And then there's these gen eds at the bottom that every single Wilkes student has to take. That's basically your philosophy, English, history. Regardless of your major, you have to take those courses. Okay, and then here's our engineering management curriculum. It's similar to the ME curriculum in the beginning, but then you're going to see that there's a nice mixture of technical courses. You have your thermodynamics, but then you have law and business courses and finance courses. This would be for technical managers. This would be for people that want to be able to interact with engineers and know what they're talking about, but still being that managerial role. And we actually do offer master's programs in both. So if you're interested in staying for the bachelor's in engineering management and then your master's, we offer that. And the same for mechanical engineering. We have a bachelor's and a master's in that as well. I see a question in the chat. If I do Calc 1 and 2 in high school, do I need to retake it? Okay, so that's a great question. So if you AP out of Calculus 1, you could just jump right into Calculus 2 when you come to Wilkes. That's actually what I did when I was a student. I'm not aware if you could AP out of Calculus 2 as well. My son might actually be in a similar boat. He's a sophomore right now. He's planning on taking Calc 1 and 2 in high school. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I do know that a lot of my advisees have AP'd out of Calc 1. Or some of them want to retake Calc 1 in college, just to get kind of an easy 4 and maybe refresher of the material if you weren't quite sure if you did good in high school or really understood it. But yeah, you could definitely at least AP out of Calc 1. Okay, mentorship. Yeah, thank you for the question, by the way. And if anyone else has any question, you could either message me directly or message the whole group. All right, so now I'm going to talk about mentorship. So what makes Wilkes different? And here's me with shorter hair. Probably the same shirt though. And it seems like such a cliche to say it, but it's true. We are a faculty that cares. We are primarily a teaching school where the undergraduate education is emphasized. We really pride ourselves in teaching. We also work on our research too, but we love involving the students on our research. So, we get to know our students' name, and our offices are always open. And here's just a great brochure kind of showing a couple of our professors. That's Dr. Gamari, he's in the fluid heat transfer area, and Dr. Mu, he runs the 3D printing lab. And here's some more of our faculty and staff. Mitch, he runs the machine shop, a great guy, very willing to mentor and help students. It's not just that the students give him a part drawing and say, hey, Mitch, can you make this? He says, oh, let me show you how to run this mill or this lathe or this bandsaw. And Dr. Bednarz, her specialty is nanotechnology, nanomaterials. Dr. Castellón, he's our department chair. Mrs. Calavetti, Lisa, she's our administrative assistant, and she I can't say enough about what she does for our department, and really, she's very welcoming to the students and really helps them transition through the program. And here's me again with shorter hair, and Dr. Gamari, he's in the thermal fluids area. Dr. Garishi, he was actually my mentor in the same field as myself. He taught me machine design, and now I'm the one teaching machine design. Mr. Greiner, he's our faculty of practice. Similar courses he teaches to myself and Dr. Garishi, but he also has spent many years in industry before he came to Wilkes. So he has that engineering management background. Dr. Mu, as I mentioned, material science. Dr. Kaleem, he was one of my mentors and in the thermal area. And even though it's not my area, he was definitely one of my favorite professors here because he would always ask me, oh, how's your internship going? Or, after I graduate, we would email each other, how's your son? So that's just the culture that we have at Wilkes. I don't mean to sound cliche, but it really is a caring culture. Dr. Murthy, he's the dean of the whole College of Science and Engineering. Dr. Azavi, his field is nanotechnology, and Dr. Zhu's field is robotics. So everyone has their own part to play in our mechanical engineering curriculum. So here's that wind tunnel I was telling you about. That was actually probably one of the cooler things that I did at Wilkes, is just getting to play with the wind tunnel. I know at bigger schools that, and not to put down competitors, but, and you'll see as you go and tour different schools, they're going to say, oh, well, the TA works on the the wind tunnel, and the other students just stand back and maybe collect data, or they're given the data. You know, we're showing our students, no, this is the knob you push, and this is the button, and you know, we supervise them to make sure they don't break a very expensive piece of equipment, but we absolutely want them to get hands-on. And here's all the other labs. You could just, I'm not going to read them. You could read through them. You know, we have many, many labs for all the different fields. Okay. So here's the robotics. That's always a fun hands-on lab for our students. And robotics is one of those kind of cross-disciplinary fields that's continually emerging in mechanical engineering, but also electrical engineering component as well. So mechanical engineers, they're taught how to code, they're taught how to do some basic circuits, right? You know, because when you get to a company, you may be the only engineer actually, and hey, you're the engineer, can you come fix it? So we want our students to be as diverse and skilled as possible. So I mentioned that we do have a graduate program. So I've worked with many graduate students on research, and we've written papers for publication in journals. We've presented at conferences, but I also pride the fact that we like to work with our undergraduates. We involve our undergraduates in research with PhDs, which I'm not saying we're the only school that does it, but you know, I think it's fairly rare. So what you see there is kind of a fun project. This is actually my dissertation for my PhD, where I created a force transducer on an army bridge, full-scale army bridge, but this is a simulated one in my lab. And then we drove a tank over to collect data. So that was kind of a fun project. Okay, let's see. I see another question in the chat. How many undergrad mechanical engineering students do you have? Okay, great question. Typically, we graduate around 40 ME students. That's kind of the senior class, probably last year that graduated in senior projects. 40 to 50, depending. That's how many seniors. Probably coming in as freshmen, maybe half that or twice that, I should say. You know, maybe 80 to 100 freshmen that come in. You know, a lot of freshmen realize right off the bat that they don't like mechanical engineering or engineering in general, and they'll switch to business or, you know, just a completely different field than engineering. And then another metric would probably be by junior year, I still have like 50, maybe 60 students. And so overall in the program, if you kind of add this up, I'll try to do it the best I can in my head, maybe 80 plus 60 plus 50 plus 40, that's 100, 230, somewhere along that. I believe we are the biggest program at Wilkes. If not, we're one of the big three. It's nursing, pharmacy, and mechanical engineering. So I'm not exactly sure who's the biggest, but we're definitely one of the big three. So hopefully that answers your question, how big of a program we are. But still, we try to maintain the small class sizes. For the sophomore classes, sometimes we offer 3 sections for statics. That kind of that core class, we offer 3 sections. By the time we get to sophomore, junior year, we start just offering 2 sections, and you know, we could get by with 20, 25 per section. We also offer summer courses too, so a lot of my students take summer courses. That's what's sort of hard to gauge. This semester, like I said, I'm teaching 2 machine design courses with 15 each, but I did teach a section over the summer that had maybe 12 or 13. So it's hard to gauge exactly how many juniors we have currently. Here's my research lab, and this is kind of towards the end of one of the semesters where a lot of chaos but fun was going on. We had different senior projects teams working on. You can kind of see an outreach activity over there on the corner for kids, and you know, just a lot of fun to watch students collaborate, work with each other. Speaking of collaboration, hey, great segue. You would have thought I planned that. Here's our senior projects presentation poster from the spring. So this kind of shows all the different groups. Each group probably has 3, 4 students on it, so you can kind of get a feel. And as I mentioned, how many seniors there are. 2 of these groups actually were. Let me back up a second. So the typical curriculum has our students taking senior projects 1, semester 7, which would basically be fall of senior year, and then senior projects 2 in semester 8, which would be spring of senior year. Some students, they kind of get out of phase, so to speak, where they're not going to graduate in a spring, but they'd be set to graduate in a fall, December. So, perhaps they failed a class, or a couple classes had to retake them, or they came in as a transfer student, some transferred in, some classes they were missing. Regardless, for the last few years, we've started offering senior projects 1 and 2 every single semester. That's worked out great to help the students pass through. So otherwise, in the past, they would have had to stick around a whole other year, and in their very last spring, they're just taking senior projects 2, and that's it. So you can imagine how frustrating that would be for the students. So we wanted to try to make their path a little easier. So now we offer senior projects 1 and 2, both semesters. So 2 of these groups, Gentle Grip and the wind turbine team, there we go, the portable wind turbine team, they started their senior projects 1 in the spring, and now I'm working with them. They're going to finish up this fall, along with the new cohort of, I believe we have 11 senior projects teams this fall. So our senior projects presentation is a great event. We encourage to invite family, friends, industry, and they could watch our students present in front of a whole bunch of people. So I always love senior projects. And here's just a link to senior projects, Wilkes.edu ME senior projects. And I'm just going to showcase a few of the senior projects teams that I've personally been involved with. This one is adjustable wheelchair. My wife, Heather, is an occupational therapist, and she actually came up with this idea at her job where wheelchairs come in discrete sizes, 18-inch, 20-inch, 22-inch. And she said, gee, it would be great if wheelchairs were adjustable. And not only just adjustable, but can we collapse it, store it in a trunk, and transport the patient, and then re-engage it right where it left off. So I worked with the senior projects team and my wife, and we came up with this great invention, and we did prior art research and patent research and worked with a patent lawyer and found out, hey, nobody else had ever done what we did. So we ended up filing the patent, and now I'm co-inventor along with Heather and the group of students, and we all jointly are partners for this project. So wonderful, wonderful project. Another senior projects, this one was an outreach event. So this is actually my local church. I live just north of Scranton. Basically, one of the churches was, quote, decommissioned, and they wanted to turn it into a parish center. So the students kind of drew all this in the computer and did acoustic modeling. One of the challenges of this whole project was churches are meant to transmit sound. If you ever kind of just stood in an empty church and talked, you could hear yourself and people can hear you all throughout. But if you want to do different rooms, breakout rooms, you don't want that to happen. So they were able to do some acoustic analysis. They did some power analysis, different outlets we could put in. They repurposed the pews. They were just very long and straight, and they came up with some creative furniture designs that we can use. And we worked with a contractor, and this was just a great community project, outreach project. They got experience working with customer, the priest, actually. This was a fun senior project. So a lot of these projects, I said how the first project kind of came up from my wife. The second idea came up, from my involvement in my church. This project came up from the students themselves. So I always love when students kind of invent their own projects and they grow organically. So these students, they wanted an automated drink mixer for a bar. So if the bartender could push a button for a Long Island iced tea, and it would go all the different shots. So it was, a really fun project, and we got to showcase it in Stark Learning Center. That's just colored liquid. I assure you, it's not actually alcohol for the demonstration purposes. This was a fun senior project. If you ever heard of a Rube Goldberg machine, or if you haven't, Google it after my talk tonight. It's a very extraordinary way to perform a very simple task, or outlandish way to perform very simple tasks. So we had a group of students, and it's engineering. It's energy transfer, potential to kinetic, to spring energy, and so forth. And we won the People's Choice Award back in 2017. So that was a fun bill to be involved in. Here's more of a real world project. You know, if you're like, do they ever take themselves seriously? Well, yes, we do. So this group of students, they came up with this great idea to turn gravitational potential energy into electrical energy to charge a cell phone in an emergency situation. So you're out hiking, your cell phone goes dead, you can just have this machine in a backpack and hang it on a tree with a bunch of rocks, and as it slowly falls down, it's gonna spin a motor and it's gonna charge your cell phone and you can make an emergency call. So another great electromechanical project. We team up with electrical engineering a lot on our senior projects. It's a great complement. We actually have some students that double major as well. You know, that's where they double major in mechanical and electrical, and then it probably takes them at least 5 years to graduate, maybe 5.5, but then job prospects are very good when they come out of school. Kraken Board Source is another team that came up with this on their own. They were a extreme sports enthusiasts, I would say. So they wanted a way to snowboard on flat land and wakeboard without a boat. So they designed their own winch company, and then they've since started their own company. So they now they're selling these. Maybe 6-7 years out of graduation, they're selling these products, and they're doing pretty good for themselves. I'm still friends with the inventors. Here's a couple more senior projects. This one was a fun one on the left. If you ever heard of Pumpkin Chunkin', I know it's a competition every year. It's always on TV. Just, you know, how far can you launch pumpkins? They want to kind of build their own mechanical catapult with a bungee system. And the team on the right, they were probably one of the more impressive senior project teams I've ever seen in my life. They built a full-scale high-lift dump trailer in order to dump mulch over a fence into a yard. And I was their advisor, and each team has a fixed budget of $500, you know, from Wilkes to build and design and build what they want. This team, when they were posing this idea, I said, you're going to be way over budget. You better reach out for a sponsor. And they actually did. They found a local company that was willing to donate material and time. And the students still got hands-on too. They're the ones that actually did the design and a lot of the build, but they worked hand in hand with this company in order to actually make it come to fruition. And it was unbelievable. Just a couple more senior projects to highlight. This pressure redistribution system, that's my other patent I have with students. Again, my wife Heather came up with the idea, and basically the invention is if a patient is paralyzed and they're sitting in one spot too long, they may develop pressure ulcers, which are very nasty and are actually one of the leading causes of death in nursing homes. And basically this device would measure if they were sitting too far on one side, start blinking a light to alert a caregiver to reposition the patient, and if nobody came by, an air bladder would manually inflate and shift the patient's weight. So this kind of gets back to my philosophy on engineering, and it's the practical application of science for the benefit of humanity. And I really believe that this is one of those inventions that really could change the world and help people. So, you know, that's another reason I'm very passionate about engineering, of course, is helping people. This team, they wanted to build their own 3D printer, so not an easy feat. So there's many different types of 3D printer. You may have seen the extrusion type, the FDM, or this one was a liquid resin one where it basically uses a projector to flash a UV light and cure a surface in the pattern, and then moves down a layer, flashes again, and potentially very, very quick 3D printing compared to other methods. So really cool project. And here's just showing the students standing in front of the big auditorium, Stark 101, and presenting to everyone in the audience, friends, family, other professors, their peers. So it's a wonderful, wonderful day. Okay, I'm just going to talk a little here about our cooperative education. We call it co-op. It's basically students are encouraged to work with companies and get experience regardless if they do it for credit or not. If it's not for credit, we call it an internship. If it's for credit and has an academic component, we call it a co-op. So basically for the co-op, they're working with the company, they're still getting paid, but they need to write bi-weekly reports. So myself, I'm the instructor of the co-op. I kind of wear a lot of hats. And they're writing bi-weekly reports and writing a final report and then doing a presentation to their peers at the end of the semester. So it helps them work while they're in school because it counts as a technical elective. So it's basically one less course they would have to take. Or a lot of students recently have been doing the co-op over the summer where they can work 40 hours anyway. For the co-op credit, it's only 10 hours a week, so it's really not that much during a semester, but they typically would work full time during the summer. And then here's just some of the companies, I've seen, we've had students work at a whole bunch of companies. There's companies that come out of the woodwork where I said, I didn't even know they were in Wilkes or Pittston or, any of the local cities or towns around here. And here's just some of the logos of companies that you may recognize. And I couldn't mention co-op without mentioning Sharon Cassano on the right. She's the co-op coordinator for all of Wilkes, and she helps students build their resumes. She teaches them interview skills, and but I think she has a special place in her heart for mechanical engineering students in particular. So she actually does teach an elective course. It's a 1-credit engineering professional development course, which again teaches students how to get a job, which I'm sure you wouldn't be spending a lot of money on an engineering degree if you didn't want a job when you graduate. So Sharon is a great resource to make that happen. And then we have collaboration with local companies. This is a great project I was involved in. We worked with Mountain Productions in Wilkes-Barre to design a new wash station. They basically, anytime there's a big event, like a graduation ceremony or a concert, this company loans out their plastic panels that would go on the ground. So, people can walk around without getting muddy, but then the panels themselves come back muddy and dirty and full of grass. So prior to our Wilkes students getting involved, they'd have to manually wash every single panel. And our students came up with basically a car wash system that was a wonderful hands-on job for them to work on. They're the ones that did the design. They're the ones that helped with the build. They did get credit for it as well, independent study credit. But I think even more valuable than that is something really cool to put on their resume when they go to graduate, because when you graduate, you're going to be competing with engineering students from all different schools, and they all have the same courses. Everyone, doesn't matter what school you go to, they all have robotics and heat transfer, machine design. But this team, they were the only ones that built a wash station while they were in school, or some of the senior projects too. I always tell my students that I can't motivate you with a grade in senior projects. You need to have pride in yourself that you want to do a project that you'll be proud of 3-5 years from now when you're going for that senior position somewhere and it's still on your resume. Here's just a couple previous students. They're working at Toyota now. Adam, I knew him personally, still know him actually. We were going to get together this weekend. He's been out of school for several years, and we always get together for a beer. And he comes back to Pennsylvania. He works in Detroit now. But I remember, I was his advisor, and he would say, "Yeah, Dr. B, I want to work for a car company. That's my dream. I love cars. I love working on cars." And he followed his dream, and now he's working for Toyota as a test design engineer. So, I have students all over. They say, I want to work in this field. I want to work in this field. Do you think I should try for it? Yes, absolutely. Go for it. I have a current advisee who wants to be a Disney Imagineer. I hope they get it. I love when our students come back and email me after and say, "Hey, guess where I'm working now?" It just prides me. As I mentioned, I'm a parent of 4, but a lot of my students I look up as my kids too, in some degree. Okay, now we're just going to talk about different clubs and organizations our students can get involved with. ASME, that's kind of one of our biggest clubs within our department. So we hold annual car show and have guest speakers come in from industry. Society of Women Engineers, we partner with the other engineering departments on that one. ASHRAE, they hold a young professional bowling event, and Professional Society of Professional Engineers, Pennsylvania Society of Professional Engineers. They hold the Order of the Engineer banquet, which basically when our students graduate, they are inducted into the Order of the Engineer. And it's similar to how medical professional, they take the Hippocratic oath, do no harm. Well, engineers too, do no harm. Don't purposely design something that's going to hurt someone, and then try to keep safety and the public well-being and the environment is first and foremost. So here's a couple of our outreach events we have. We like to showcase engineering and science to middle school, high school, boys and girls. So we show them just toys that they probably play with anyway, and say, hey, when you built something like this and you have a marble flow down, that's engineering. And students are like, oh, really? Because that's probably one of the hardest things to, I don't know, not sell engineering to students, but say what we do as an engineer. When you're a kid, you go to the dentist, you go to the doctor, you don't go to the engineer. But you don't have to look far to see engineering. Just look around you. Look at the video games you're playing, and your refrigerator, and your desk, and your computer, and the cars you drive. That's all engineering. Okay, so hey, I'm right on time, and I'll definitely stick around for any questions, either if you want to chime in or put in the chat. But in conclusion, mechanical engineering is a rewarding career. I'm so proud that I'm a mechanical engineer. I love being a mechanical engineer. I'm still an engineer, even though I'm a professor as well. And I truly stand behind the product of what I do at Wilkes University, where Wilkes will give you the skills necessary to be a successful engineer. And how is Wilkes different? Well, we offer that hands-on education, the caring faculty, and the industry experience, the hands-on labs, and I could keep going on and on and on. And I'm going to end with this quote from Steve Wozniak. Don't know who Steve Wozniak, he's the other Steve at Apple. Steve Jobs was kind of the ideas man, and Steve Wozniak was that engineer behind the scenes making it happen. I hope you'll be as lucky as I am. The world needs inventors, great ones. You can be one. If you love what you do and are willing to do what it takes, it's within your reach. And it'll be worth every minute you spend alone at night thinking about what it is you want to design or build. It'll be worth it, I promise. Okay, so thank you for listening, and please feel free, either raise your hand on our platform here, or just speak up. Here's my contact info if you need to get a hold of me. Again, my name is Dr. Edward Bednarz, and here's my email address. Our chair is Henry Castahone. Our administrative assistant is Mrs. Lisa Colavetti, and our dean is Dr. Murthy. And I do have some extra slides, frequently asked questions if need be, but feel free to open it up to anybody in the chat. Okay. Anybody else have any? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Hunter. Okay. Well, have a good